Leaning, leaning, leaning on the everlasting arm. Why didn't she harmonize with me?
It was really good. I don't know how to harmonize.
She's supposed to harmonize. She says, lean on Jesus, lean on Jesus. For those of you in the know, that's a big old hint for what we watched in our continuance of Spooky-thon, Toyota-thon, Digimon, Spooktacular Halloween.
A Halothon?
Hellathon.
It's a Halothon.
Oh, okay, I like that better. What was it called, Micah?
I can't remember.
The Night of the Hunter. Yeah, look it up so you can tell people how old it is real quick.
This came out in 1955, so it's a black and white film.
Yep.
And it's pretty much about this guy. He's a priest, quote unquote. And at the beginning of the movie, he gets put in... This is what was crazy at the beginning of the movie. I think we were laughing about it when we watched it, because he steals a car, and the judge is like, you're going to prison, buddy, for 30 days.
Yeah.
And the guy's like, but judge, I'm a holy man.
I'm a preacher, baby.
Yeah. And the judge is like, I don't care.
Yeah, so he ends up going to prison. He ends up sharing a cell with a man who just pulled off a bank robbery. And this man hid the money somewhere. I think there's like $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
Which, Michael looked this up. It's actually not even...
No, it's like $180,000.
Yeah, adjusted for inflation.
Yeah, is what he stole.
So it's not even... I mean...
At the time, that's a shit ton of money, but $10,000 in 19...
Well, it would still be a lot. You know, if someone gave you $180,000, that would be a ton. That would be great.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, it's not like...
If you're going to rob a bank or rob someone, I would want to get away with a lot more than $180,000.
Yeah. So, anyways.
And so, what's the priest's name?
Harry Powell.
Harry Powell wakes up in the middle of the night to his cellie talking in his sleep, talking about how he hid this money. And... He
told his children where it was.
Yeah, and that's what he's talking about. Like, ask the kids.
His sleep, yeah.
And Harry Powell is like... This part was so funny, because the guy is talking in his sleep and he's on the lower bunk, and Harry, like, sticks his head down, or he, like, gets down from his bunk and he's listening right at the guy's ear, and the guy's asleep, and while he's talking in his sleep, he wakes up, and the moment he wakes up, he swings and punches Harry in the face.
I forgot about that.
And is like, why are you listening to me? Or whatever. You were trying to get me to confess in my sleep, or whatever.
Because he'd been trying.
Yeah.
He's nothing if not persistent, this Harry Powell.
So Harry gets out. What's the guy's name that did the heist?
I don't know.
Stole the money?
John, no.
Gwen?
No, Ben.
Ben.
Ben Harper.
So Ben Harper, yeah, he had stolen money and told his kids where he hid it and went to prison, and they were going to hang him.
And they did.
And then Harry gets out and he goes to that small town.
And he meets a girl named Sally. Did you like that?
Yeah.
Not really. Her name's Willa.
Yeah.
The widow.
And while he's driving to this little town to meet this widow in hopes of getting the money, we're assuming, he's talking about women that he has...
killed.
Yeah. And he's like...
He's got this, like, twisted idea...
that God is giving him these women to...
correct...
or to
and
gain...
kill and then steal money. Like, he's got this weird idea that he's righteous in a strange way.
Because he's in the car praying to God. Dear God.
I know you don't mind the killings. There's plenty of killing in the Bible. So what'll it be, God? Another widow? Send me to?
Yeah. And he's like, how many was it, God? 10? 12?
I lose count.
I lost count. Which is just so crazy. She's like, what the heck? So he goes to the town and he befriends and...
he charms everybody.
Yeah.
Gets Willa to marry him.
And the kids.
And then he's trying to extract where the money is. And that
From the kids.
Yeah. Obviously, this guy is bad news. So this is one of the first scary movies, really. They got away with a lot of stuff in this movie.
Yeah, so like we said, it came out in 1955, and there's this scene where Harry is talking about, like, wicked men or something, and he's talking about the things that men do, and he's sitting there. It's like a flashback, and he's sitting in an auditorium with all these other men, and they're watching a woman.
A burlesque show.
Yeah. And she's, like, in a bikini. You know, it's just, for 1955, that's crazy.
And all the killing. He kills people on screen. They're obviously, like, it doesn't show. It's not bloody graphic or anything like that, but he kills these people.
Yeah.
He dumps, should we say?
No.
Okay. He dumps a body in the river. And it's like this very eerie shot, like the hair is floating everywhere. It's just very.
It's very spooky.
It's like, whoa, this is 1955.
Yeah.
And then he's threatening to kill the children, and he will kill the children. Like he does not give a shit. This Harry Powell, he's nothing if not persistent. It's just yeah. I mean, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good.
I was telling Brayden after the movie that for 3/4, 4/5 of this movie, I was enjoying it, but I didn't think I would recommend this movie until the ending. And the ending was so good that I would recommend this movie to people.
Yeah.
What are some things that you liked?
Well, there's really just like two scenes that I thought were so far ahead of their time and still spooky today. Like the
singing back and forth.
It's always when he's singing.
Yeah.
And there's this one scene where he's on the hill and it's just a silhouette of him riding a donkey or a horse across the hill, and he's just like leaning.
Yeah, he's singing.
And his voice is echoing across the plains, and the two kids that are hiding from him
know that this is his song.
They're watching him, and the kid, John, the boy child, is like, doesn't he ever sleep?
Because they've been running away for days.
Yeah, they do a Huck Finn. They go down the river. And then, the scene where John and his sister end up in this woman's house as they're running away, who's taking care of a bunch of foster kids. And this woman's a badass.
Because this is during the Depression, so there were a lot of kids that were just on their own.
This woman is a hard but fair and loving,
but very firm
adoptress.
Yeah.
And she's the only one that's been able to see through Harry Powell for the whole movie. All the adults are just completely taken in by him. He's able
spoiler?
No. We haven't really spoiled much.
Okay.
But there's this she doesn't trust him, and Harry Powell says, "I'll come back when it's dark." And he does. And he's sitting on the fence outside of her house, and the woman is
sitting in
a rocking chair.
It's either like a solarium or like an enclosed porch. And so she can hear him sing.
And she's got a shotgun, and he's just singing. And you can see him from, over her shoulder as she's rocking. You can see him sitting on the fence, and then she starts singing as well, harmonizing.
Yeah.
Because like this guy is, using the Bible and the gospel and hymns,
being a preacher
and twisting them. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing, and she's very religious, and it just felt like she was taking the song back. She wasn't letting him turn it into something scary. She was like, okay, you can sing that song because it's going to make me feel more courage or whatever. And then one of the foster children comes into the room with a candle, and it like lights up the window. And then when she blows the candle out, he's gone. And that's such a good scene. Like really those two scenes were like, they're still spooky today. The rest of it like is not quite maybe as effective as it was back when this movie came out. Yeah.
Some things are like, that, like, I don't know why you did that specific shot.
But you can tell that this movie influenced a lot of other movies, in particular True Grit, because there's like, I don't know why, but there's like basically shot for shot the same of like a silhouette on a hill with the horse, and they're playing the song
Leaning
in a piano version.
Really?
Yeah. I don't know why they did that, because it's not really a scary movie, but it's definitely like there's no missing it. It's an homage for sure to this movie. But very pretty, very good.
Yeah. The thing that I thought was crazy is, so yes, Harry Powell is one of the main characters, but really the main people are the two kids. Is John and his little sister. And John, I was trying to figure out how old they were, and I was thinking he's anywhere from 6 to 8 years old, I would say. And she's probably 4, the little sister.
He looks older than that to me.
Really?
He seems like 10 and she seems like she's 6.
I think she's younger than that.
Really?
9 and 4.
Okay. All right. Yeah, but...
So at the beginning of the movie, when their dad... What was his name? Ben?
Yeah.
Comes running onto their property, and the kids are there, and the dad hides the money, and he's like, John, promise me you will not tell your mom or anybody where this money is. Pearl, promise me. And John does such a good job of not telling anybody.
Oh, he's an MVP.
Yes.
He's very quick on his feet and, doesn't get flustered.
Right.
He's sort of like Coraline or Huck Finn or, any of these like classic young kids from these older stories. I guess Coraline's not that old of a story, but... But
I also thought that for them being kid actors, they acted amazingly.
Yeah, they did good.
For having so many lines and so much focus on them, I thought that they did an amazing job.
Yeah.
Because you don't always get that, especially for how old this movie is. I would expect a lot worse.
But I mean, the star of the show is definitely Harry Powell, though.
Sure. I'm just saying that those kids deserve a huge shout out for how well they acted.
Yeah.
There was this one moment where they're floating down the river. Was it right after they had gotten out of the barn when Pearl starts singing?
Yeah, I think so.
And Pearl, like I said, is 4 years old, and she starts singing, and it's straight up a grown woman's voice coming out of her mouth.
No, it's not.
Don't you remember that song?
I do. It wasn't a grown woman's voice.
It did not sound like a little girl voice.
It did. It was very, very high-pitched.
Because both of us were like, what the heck?
Well, it was strange, but it didn't feel like a grown woman's voice to me.
I did not feel like it was a kid's voice.
So, yeah, there is a little bit of, jumpiness in this movie, like that. Like, that felt kind of jarring to me. I wasn't in love with that. There is a part where Harry Powell kills someone with a knife that I felt could have been done much better. Much more scary. Because he's like...
Oh, yeah.
He's got love and hate tattooed on his hands, and, very not subtly, he's raising his hate hand and, staring at it like it's a anime.
Well, straight arm, straight up.
Yeah.
Arm fully extended all the way down.
Yeah. So, there's a little bit of goofiness here and there, but there's, you can tell that this was a forerunner for a lot of what would become effective in these thriller movies or scary movies, whatever. Apparently, this is the only movie the director ever did, and he was an immigrant to the United States, did it, and it did so poorly that he was just so discouraged he never made another movie. And it's such a bummer because I have heard people talk about this movie being a huge influence on them. Quentin Tarantino, the Coen brothers, obviously, with True Grit, Guillermo del Toro, just really famous, successful directors now. They look back, Spike Lee, they look back at this movie and they're like, this movie is awesome. And its legacy has, it has influenced my work in many ways. In fact, there's in the Spike, what's that one called? Do the Right Thing. I don't think you saw it. I watched it on an airplane. But there's a character who has, he lives in the ghetto and he's got brass knuckles, and it's love and hate. So it's direct homage. Yeah. This movie has influenced a lot of other films that came later, and it deserves to be commended. And there's still some scenes that are really effective, like we said, that are just very memorable. I'll always remember that guy singing. He's got a good voice too.
Yeah.
I think that's what makes it so scary. He's he sounds like this soothing, tenor.
Yeah, it's almost like hypnotic the way that he's singing.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's another thing that I'm surprised that they were able to kind of get away with this early on in cinema is, this film is in a way criticizing religion because it can be used to twist your motives
to manipulate people,
to excuse killing, to excuse whatever, and it's not afraid of showing that side of it, which I was impressed with. This is going to become a little bit of a theme later in the episode, actually, when we talk about our third movie. But yeah, do you have anything else you want to add?
Are we just going to talk about the whole thing, or are we going to do any spoilers?
No, I don't think we need to do spoilers. I think this is worth watching. It's spooky, right?
Yeah, but it's definitely not scary.
No, it would have been scary back when it was out, for sure. And there are some scary scenes like we talked about. It's just, by modern standards, it's not scary.
No.
But it's a good Halloween one to watch. And another good one to maybe show your kids and be like, hey, don't trust people that you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? Don't just let them in.
And I think it's a good story of, these kids never trusted him.
The girl did.
She did eventually, but John never did.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where maybe you should listen to him. He's not, an emotionally driven kid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I will say this story is very simple.
Yeah.
In terms of
what it is, what happens.
Yeah. But I really enjoyed it. And especially like the ending, Mrs. Cooper.
Yeah.
Was she Mrs. Cooper or Miss Cooper?
Miss. She didn't have a husband.
No, but Miss Cooper, yeah, she really did see through all the bullshit. She knew that these kids needed a home. She took all these homeless kids in and took care of them and gave them stability and a routine, and they knew what to expect. And she may not have been the most loving to everybody at all times, but she did love them.
She's not soft.
No, but she did love them in her own way and made sure that they knew that they were cared for.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it's good.
Yeah.
Do you want to rate
it? You go first.
I'll give it an 8. Leaning.
Nice.
I just wish that some of the scarier parts could have been a little scarier, a little more edgy.
I was fine with that.
Yeah, but I just think like there's the scenes that I loved most are the ones that kind of made the hair on my neck stand up still. And I wish it was a little bit more consistent in that respect, but you can't fault it for that because it's old. And this guy was doing things that people weren't doing yet. So yeah, 8.
I think I'm gonna rate this an 8. He's not like the other ones. I love him.
Oh my gosh!
Out of 10.
What an idiot!
Yeah. So definitely, if you want to get that reference, watch the movie. It's worth it.
All right, moving on.
What was the other thing we watched?
What was the other thing we watched? We went to the theaters to watch it.
Oh, we went and watched Wild Robot in theaters. And I don't think there has been a movie that has made both of us tear up before. This
one did, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I was, like, on the verge of having tears spill out of my eyes, and I look over at Brayden, and I was like, your eyes look a little suspiciously full.
A little moist.
Yeah. So this movie is about
Not unlike this moist, organic yerba mate sparkling cranberry pomegranate by the Guayaquil Company.
So this movie is about a robot who wakes up on an island.
Yeah.
And it is like a helper robot. Mm-hmm. It's there to assist in tasks. And there's no people on this island. It's only animals. And it doesn't understand that what it's doing is bad. It's harmful to the animals. And it doesn't understand the animals. So the robot's name is Roz.
Yeah.
And once it recalibrates to understand animal speech, it ends up adopting a little gosling.
Through circumstances.
Yeah. And raising this little gosling to adulthood. It's
given the task to help it learn to eat, learn to swim, learn to fly, so it can migrate.
By fall.
And this is its task. And then once it has a task, it's finally, like, locked in.
Yeah, I will do this.
Yeah, because, like, before, it hatches the gosling, and then it wants to just get rid of the gosling immediately, and then a possum mom says, this is your task. Make sure it can migrate. And then it's like, oh, okay, this is my task.
And the possum mom, what is her name in the movie? Or Pinktail?
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so it was funny when the possum Pinktail was talking to Roz and saying, you know, you need to be its mom. And Roz was like, I don't have programming for that.
Yeah. She's like, no one does.
Yeah, nobody does. You just kind of figure it out. She's like, oh, okay. This movie, I thought was going to be just like when I saw the ads, I was like, oh, okay, a helper robot. This is going to be just like Big Hero 6.
Right.
It is not.
It's much better in our opinion.
Better.
Yeah.
The art style is so cool. At times, it kind of reminded us both of the Puss in Boots Last Wish.
Yeah.
Like the watercolor.
Same studio.
Oh, really?
Like a lot of it looks, you know, Pixar-y, very, very crisp and clean and very detailed. Roz looks like that. But then a lot of the backgrounds and some of the things,
so
they
like
look...
the forest and the ocean.
I don't know what you call it. Do you call it cel-shaded or what? It looks like cartoony almost a little bit, but in a tasteful way. It looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you've got a pretty good cast in here. Roz is voiced by Lupita Nyong'o.
You got Pedro Pascal in there. You got Bill Nighy. You got Ving
Rhames. Mark Hamill.
You got Matt Berry. You got Catherine O'Hara.
Matt Berry is from What We Do in the Shadows. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's acted well, and it's very heartfelt and touching, and makes you think about you know, parenthood. And if you're not a parent, it's still touching because it's like the bond between child and parent, and raising the child and learning how to deal with the child, learning how to help the child deal with people that don't like you know, your kid. You know, bullies. How do you comfort? How do you make sure that the child feels okay? And then eventually letting go.
Yeah.
That was the teary-eye part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This movie is rated PG, I think.
Yeah.
There's no bad language.
Nope.
At all.
Nope.
There's not a single bad word in this movie.
Nope.
And I don't think that there was a single adult joke either.
Well, there's like some jokes about death, like the
inappropriate adult jokes.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, they do mention death a few times.
There's a part where the possum is talking to Roz, and she's like, as a proud mother of 7, and then you hear this like 6 kids. You know, there's stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, what?
I just mean like, sometimes in kids' movies they put jokes in there that are definitely meant for adults.
Yeah, on
that are borderline inappropriate for little kids.
On the spectrum from Shrek being like very adult, right?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
What's like a pretty innocent one? Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
On that spectrum, it's closer to Beauty and the Beast than it is to Shrek, for sure. Yeah. But it also has, it's got some real emotional heft to it that adults will appreciate.
Yeah.
And it's funny too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those jokes really land.
It made me chuckle. I went, huh.
Yeah.
You know? Would that it were so funny. Which it was.
But
I also love Bill Nighy. I'm excited whenever... as soon as he started talking, I was like, that's him. There's the guy. He plays this... he plays a goose. Anyway. Wise Mr. Old Long-Necked Goose.
Yeah, and I didn't feel like the story or anything in it was like politically driven.
Oh, no, I didn't think so at all. Like, yeah. I wasn't. I mean, you could kind of make the argument,
but you could
AI,
make that,
you know,
I guess
be okay, be more accepting of AI. I just think it was like an easy vessel to like
talk about this,
create a fish out of water, sort of thing, where this robot that is very unequipped for being a parent
does not
becomes
have
a parent,
programming for
it. And like learns how to reprogram her brain herself to figure out this journey that she's on now. So I didn't even really feel like it was trust AI. You know.
I felt like for today's age, as a kids movie, it was great.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I mean, we went to the theaters and saw this, and I think this movie might be on its way out because I didn't see a ton of showtimes for it. But the movie theater was packed.
It was packed.
There was a ton of kids in there. And from what I could tell, all the kids were engaged in this movie.
Yeah.
You know, in the beginning, while everyone's getting settled in, like a lot of kids were talking, but they were talking about the movie.
Yeah.
And then as it went on, by the end of the movie, all the kids were quiet. I thought that was cool.
Yeah. DreamWorks is just cranking out the hits recently, huh?
What else have they put out recently?
I'm just looking it up. I can't think of the last Pixar movie that I really loved, but I thought Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was great, and this was great.
Yeah.
I guess, you know, they've got stuff in their back catalog. They've got Chicken Run. They've got Megamind. They've got
in the last 5 years, it's only been a couple of stuff.
The Bad Guys wasn't amazing. I didn't love that one.
We didn't watch that. We didn't.
How to Train Your Dragon.
Croods, I think I saw the first one and I liked it, but it's been so long. Trolls is overhyped.
But like, I feel like Pixar consistently is just making more of the same. You know, it's got the same issue that
Marvel.
You know, everything Disney owns, right? It all just feels too samey.
They want it to fit in a box.
Right. I like Incredibles 2 was fine. That's maybe the last one I saw, actually, besides Soul. I didn't see Inside Out 2. I don't know. Like, these ones, it seems like when DreamWorks hit, they hit a home run.
Yeah.
Right? Prince of Egypt.
That was them?
Yes. The first two How to Train Your Dragons, haven't seen the third one. Home run.
Yeah.
Shrek 2, home run.
Mm-hmm.
When they don't hit, you know, they're freaking batting 100 with Shrek 4. Ugh.
No, aren't they coming out? There's already 4, isn't there?
Yeah, I saw Shrek 4 in theaters. It was awful.
What?
It's the one with Rumpelstiltskin.
Oh. I forgot about that one.
It's terrible.
So.
Just terrible.
Well, are you ready to rate it?
That's terrible. That's not baseball. Yeah. What would you give it?
I think I'm going to give this movie a 9.
Yeah.
A 9. Hey, don't touch that. That's Bright Bill's baby picture. Out of 10.
I'm going to give it a 9 Lynx Cubs out of 10. That's my one complaint and why it's losing a point. This movie needed more Lynx Cubs. There are a few, and they're very cute. There's also some cute otter pups, aren't there? Starts out with some cute otter pups.
Yeah.
That's another thing that I liked about this is... Okay, I guess we're in spoiler territory now a little bit. So obviously this island is an ecosystem where there's a food chain, and it's not safe, right? At a certain point... You know, nobody likes Roz. Nobody trusts Roz because she's weird. She's a robot. Mm-hmm. But there's a massive blizzard that hits the island, and all of the animals that are in hibernation will freeze. And she goes out and saves all of them and puts them into her big old hut. And they all learn to get along. You know, get along with people that are different than you.
Wait, I liked that part because when she brings everybody in and everybody's fighting.
So funny. Yeah.
And Fink is like... Be quiet!
Well, the thing is, like, what did you expect? You brought prey and predators into the same space.
But he tries to get everyone's attention to make them stop, and he yells as loud as he can. Nobody stops. And then this the
possum child.
Yeah, just goes, shh.
Everyone listens.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is a little unrealistic that they all end up being friends because who's gonna eat what?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the bear. I love the bear at the end. The bear's a real homie by the end. He comforts Fink, and that part made me tear up a little bit too.
Yeah.
Because Fink the fox he
doesn't have any friends.
He's never had any friends.
Yeah.
No one's ever liked him.
And he doesn't know how to be a friend because he's never had one. And it sounds like he hasn't really ever had a family.
And Roz needs to leave because the company will keep sending robots to go and find her, and they'll mess things up and they'll start fires and whatever. And when Fink realizes she's leaving, he just starts breaking down.
Yeah. It
was really sad. Really well done. And then the bear steps up. He's not the step bear. He's the bear who stepped up, Micah. The bear's like, he's like, he's like, who am I going to tell if I have a problem, if I need to talk to someone?
That's Fink.
And the bear's like, you can talk to me.
Yeah, and he's been like the villain of the whole story up until then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it got a lot of great messages in it, about parenthood and also
friendship.
Friendship, getting along with people that are different than you. All that good heart touchy-feely stuff that'll tickle you right in the scrotum. It's good stuff.
Oh my gosh. What? Charlie's what?
You ready to move on to the third?
Yeah.
Micah is furious at me that we're talking about this because I started this movie last night and she was like, we can't talk about this, Coraline Jones! Too many movies! And I was like, babe, don't worry.
Don't say that!
I was like, you tripping.
Girl,
Jamal, don't worry because we're not going to finish this. Yeah, there's no way we're going to finish it. It's starting too late. I have a soccer game in the morning. Don't worry. We're not going to finish this. I didn't expect it to be so interesting that we would just...
That the time just flew by and we finished the movie.
We would just one-shot it. But it's called Charlie Wilson's War.
Oh, Wilson's War. Okay.
And it's based on the story of how the United States got involved with the Mujahideen, which is the Afghanistan freedom fighters force, basically, that was fighting against the Soviets when they invaded Afghanistan in like 1980 or whenever it was that they invaded. It's the story of how we supported the Mujahideen, and specifically how this congressman from Texas, Charlie Wilson, was very instrumental in supplying the Afghans with the weapons that they needed to beat the Soviets out of their country. Mm-hmm. And it's a drama comedy.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. You didn't think it was it's for sure a drama comedy. It says
it's a war comedy.
I thought it was really funny when it was funny. And it's funny a lot. There's lots of jokes in this.
Okay.
Who's in it, though?
Okay. Got a pretty good cast, honestly.
Yeah.
So we've got Tom Hanks, who plays Charles Wilson. We've got Philip Seymour Hoffman, who plays the CIA...
Gust Avracados.
Yeah, but he plays the CIA rep that he mostly talks to.
Yeah.
We've got Julia Roberts, and she plays... Really, she's like a socialite from Texas, but...
Really rich.
Yeah, she helps get a ton of funding. We have Emily Blunt for a little bit.
She's not very much in there, is she?
We've got John Slattery.
Is that the guy from Mad Men?
Yep. We have... Come on, I know that there's more. Amy Adams, I know, is in here.
Oh, I forgot about her.
Why is she not at the top?
Yeah, she's pretty prominent in the movie. She's in a lot of scenes. This is a movie that you need to be paying attention to.
Right.
It's one of those.
Paying full attention. They talk. The dialogue happens very quickly.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, what are they saying?
Yeah.
And, like, at some points we had to stop so that, like, or, like, go back to understand what they were fully saying.
And it's also, I didn't realize this until the very end, it was written by Aaron Sorkin, who... Let me just look this up so I've got all the stuff. He's always been one of my very favorite screenwriters. He wrote The Social Network, A Few Good Men, Molly's Game, The Trial of the Chicago 7, Steve Jobs, which is a freaking excellent, underrated movie, by the way, Moneyball, Charlie Wilson's War.
Wow, like all those movies have great dialogue.
Yes. He's very famous for just like, he writes that really punchy, it's not super realistic dialogue, but it is so... riveting to watch. It's almost like stage,
like
it feels like a play.
Yeah.
Which actually, this is when we went to London, they were showing To Kill a Mockingbird in London, and this is the play that was written by Aaron Sorkin.
To Kill
a Mockingbird. Imagine how freaking good that would have been.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to go, and no one was interested in it besides me.
There wasn't a lot of time.
There wasn't, but it's similar. I would say it's very similar to A Few Good Men, one of his earlier movies. That's very smart.
Yeah.
And the dialogue is flying so fast, and it's smart dialogue that like you some of it you kind of need to think about to like understand what they're saying really.
And they don't give you enough time. That's my one complaint.
Yeah, there's just not quite enough time for all of it.
Yeah. Because the dialogue, all of it is so good.
Yeah.
And they should keep all of it, of course, because
Yeah.
that's what makes the movie. But I wish some of it, they would let it sink in a little bit.
Yeah. But, like, there's some parts that are just really funny. Like, there's mostly Gustav Rickados is my favorite.
Who is Philip Seymour Hoffman's
I
character?
freaking love that guy, man.
Yeah.
He's so good in everything he's in. Just like, he's just this no nonsense, like very deadpan CIA operative. And there's a part where he's meeting Charlie Wilson for the first time, and then there's a scandal that's also unfolding that Charlie Wilson is trying to take care of, and he keeps having to kick Gustav Rickados out of his office
to talk to
to bring his secretaries in to try and put out this fire. And then he
back and forth.
Yeah, kicks his secretaries out, brings Gustav Rickados in, and eventually.
Well, I think that they did such a good job of this because every single time that Gust went out, he immediately turns to the secretaries and says, "What is it?" And they say, "Blah blah blah blah," and he's like, "Okay, I'll do it." And then Gust comes back in, and they pick up exactly where they left off for 4 times in and out.
Yeah. And then, like, eventually they knock on the door and Gus is like, "Yep." And he just like, he just like leaves. And then he comes back in on the 4th time and he's like, "Don't forget about the limo driver, Charlie." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "The limo driver, he might have seen you doing cocaine also."
Which is what the scandal
It's easy enough to subpoena a limo driver. Just make sure that you're taking care of it. And Charlie's like, "Were you listening at the door? That's a thick door." I wasn't listening at the door. You
were listening at the door.
And before he came in, or before the meeting started, Gust had given him a bottle of scotch, and he's like,
as like a present.
Yeah, he's like, "Don't be ridiculous. No, I bugged the scotch bottle." What? He's like, "Yeah, there's a bug in there. I got a little transmitter in my ear. Get past it." It's just like. Is there a camera in here too? Like, you're being a little paranoid, Charlie.
Yeah, that part was funny.
Just the way that only Philip Seymour Hoffman can. Just it's so funny and so good.
You're being paranoid. I know that I just bugged this room, but a video camera, you're being paranoid.
or the part where they're going to find like the weapons expert, and they go to this like park where there's a lot of chess going on, and he's like, "All right. You see that nerdy guy in the white shirt playing chess with 4 people? Which one of them do you think is the weapons expert that we're going to talk to?" And Charlie's like, he's like, "Charlie, it's the nerdy kid in the white shirt. Come on." Doesn't mean just because it's serious doesn't mean we can't have a little fun with this. It's just like, they feel like throwaway jokes, but a lesser writer wouldn't put them in. They really they are the personality of this movie.
Yeah.
That just. I love his writing. I love the way that Philip Seymour Hoffman plays it. Tom Hanks plays it pretty well too. Yeah, but like deeper than that, this movie is thought-provoking, I would say. I kind of got annoyed at Micah actually as we were watching it, and I feel bad about it.
Yeah, that was mean.
Because she kept pausing it and like, making comments and then,
because I wanted to fully understand this movie, and I wanted to know how I should feel about this movie. Because it's dealing with the Middle East and sending money.
And American involvement.
Yes, and sending money and helping them get weapons and all of that to the Middle East.
During the Cold War.
And I feel conflicted about that.
Right.
And so I wanted to talk about it to see what your thoughts were. And Brendan was like, "Just play the movie." I stopped the movie one time. To talk about this.
That was the 3rd time that you stopped it.
Really?
Yes.
To talk about that, though?
Not specifically that, but it was the 3rd time you talked about it.
The movie moves really fast.
Stopped it. It does.
I wanted to talk about that, and Brendan was like, "Just play it."
I just wanted to keep going.
But
I'm sorry.
There's a lot going on in this movie.
There is. I think a lot of the world feels the way you do, conflicted about sort of the U.S.'s role as, global policeman.
Because I don't want people to think like, "Oh, Micah hates helping other people and those in need," because I don't. But I feel conflicted about this, and I feel validated in feeling conflicted about this at the end of the movie.
I think that's a fine way to look at it but you also have to understand, after World War II, the United States is basically solely responsible for creating the globalized world that we live in today. They are the reason that oil is able to go through the Persian Gulf without being raided by pirates or by other foreign powers. they're the reason that you're able to order something from China and have it shipped over here, and vice versa. Like the security that our Navy and our military provides is what allows the globalized economy to keep spinning. If the United States pulled out, all hell would break loose, basically. And this is
I think is really hard.
Yeah, so we kind of put ourselves in this position at the end of the Second World War, where we wanted everybody to be connected. We decided we're not going to take over Germany, we're not going to take over Italy, we're going to let them do their own things. We were in a very good position to basically set up whatever governments we wanted in those. We could have created an empire.
Yeah.
And we didn't. We wanted to create a more global world instead. And now we're sort of in the position where we police it in some ways, and that's good and not good at the same time. It's complicated. Yeah. It's not an easy thing, and especially when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we were fighting a Cold War with them, so it becomes even more complicated. And then all these Afghani refugees are fleeing into Pakistan, and it's creating a huge problem for Pakistan, and there's so many people dying. And
yeah,
also there was the idealistic struggle back then of not wanting communism to spread, right?
Yeah.
Which you can have your thoughts about whether the fight against communism was a good or a bad thing. I see it more, though, as a fight against an evil empire, which is what the Soviet Union was.
Yeah.
I think in general it was a good thing
that we sent aid,
that we intervened and we helped the Afghans kick the Soviets out of their country.
Yeah.
Because you shouldn't, in the modern world, you are not allowed to invade someone without consequence. You shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's not how we work anymore. We're all interconnected. And something like that upsets everything. But yeah, I don't know. I feel conflicted too, because it's also...
It's just so complicated.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky question.
Yeah. Well, they tell this really great story. Is this a spoiler, the Zen?
I loved that.
Can I share?
Yeah, go ahead. It's Philip Seymour Hoffman tells this to Charlie Wilson.
So he tells this story where there's this village, and this boy in the village gets a horse. And everybody says, that's so great, he got a horse. And the Zen master says, we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
2 years later, the boy falls off the horse and breaks his leg. And everyone says, that's so horrible. He broke his leg.
That he got the horse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he broke his leg because he got the horse. And the Zen master says, we'll see. Shortly after that, a war breaks out. And all the able-bodied men from the village have to go fight in this war. And because the boy broke his leg and can't fight, he stays home from the war. And everybody says, that's so great. It's such a blessing that you broke your leg and you don't have to fight in this war. And the Zen master says, we'll see.
Yeah. And the end point is the ball keeps bouncing. And you don't know whether what you did or whether what happened...
positive or negative consequences.
Yeah.
Because we'll see.
Yeah.
What we did... we as in the United States by aiding Afghanistan.
This is after the Soviets got kicked out. During the big party that they're having,
celebrate.
He's telling this to Charlie because he's like, listen to what I'm telling you. There are crazies moving in to Afghanistan now because what happened is
created a vacuum, right?
Yeah, it left a power vacuum, which was eventually filled by Al-Qaeda.
Yeah.
And the Taliban. And, it's not directly responsible. This is my one real problem with the movie, is the way that it ends. Because I looked it up. Should we get into spoilers now?
I don't know that we've talked about things that we liked enough.
Okay.
But
that's a bummer, because it's just a good segue into this. I guess I will say, I looked up a little bit about, because this was adapted from a book.
Oh.
This apparently follows the book very well. But then there's also some, debate about how much of the story is
true.
It's only telling one side of what happened. Like, it's basically accrediting Charlie Wilson with the whole thing. But a lot of what happened was down to Ronald Reagan as well. For example, there's this whole thing about how they need to get these Stinger missiles to the
just a certain weapon to the Afghans so they can shoot down the Russian helicopters, the Soviet helicopters.
Right. And apparently in real life, Charlie Wilson was against sending the Stinger missiles at first, and Reagan was the one that pushed that through.
It makes sense why they would change that.
Sure, but this is the historical accuracy of the book. It makes it seem like
it was all him.
Wilson was like, carte blanche, whatever you need, send it over there. When in reality, there were other people that played a big part in what happened.
But the movie is already really dense.
Sure.
That if they added in some of those things, I think it would have been too much.
And it's based on the book, which it apparently follows very closely.
Okay, so even the book
is
historically inaccurate in
some ways, yeah. From what I've gathered, it's definitely worth reading. People think it's very entertaining, very good. It tells a lot of what happened in a true way. It's just not the full picture. So if you're interested in this part of history, maybe read this and something else to, fill in the gaps, I guess, get the full picture.
Mm-hmm.
What else did you like about it?
Something that I was conflicted about in this movie also is the movie starts by Charlie Wilson being in a hotel room in Las Vegas, and he's in this hot tub with all these strippers.
Yeah.
And they're naked.
Yeah.
Turns out he's naked.
Yeah.
They're talking about doing blow and drinking and all of that with strippers in a hot tub. And then it just seems, and he only has women secretaries that have their shirts very lowly, like unbuttoned a lot, which is just, he's a senator, congressman.
Yeah, he's a congressman.
And that just doesn't seem, so they definitely made him seem like a very, what's the word?
He's a womanizer.
That, but also a very imperfect person.
Yeah.
And I don't think he ever pretends to be perfect, but it's interesting the things that they chose to show about him, and I wonder how true that is.
It's very true.
Really?
Yeah, so he was known as Good Time Charlie. The workers in his office were called Charlie's Angels. That line about how you can teach someone to write, but you can't teach them to grow tits.
Yeah.
He actually said that.
That's so awful.
Yeah. The thing is, though, he seems to have been well liked. Like
yeah, they made that clear throughout the movie.
He's good. He's good to the people, despite him being a total playboy. And apparently, when the real Charlie Wilson saw this movie, at the end he was like, I got off easy.
What?
Isn't that crazy? So he had a very strong reputation for being a party boy in real life, and all of this.
Well, it was interesting because we both felt like they alluded to him having HIV.
Yeah, it felt like he was coughing
and his eye. It felt to us like they were alluding to that.
Yeah.
They never mention it, and then Brandon looked it up, and he just died of old age or something.
I guess it's possible that he had an STD. And this is my problem with the movie is they're covering so much ground.
I don't know that they needed to go into depth about him.
No, they did.
Not so much.
You needed to know who he was.
Yeah, it's just such a dense movie. I mean, how long is it?
It's only an hour and 40.
They should have made this movie a little bit longer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just to try and spread things out a little bit. Because like we said, the dialogue is so heavy. And not in a bad way of, there's too much talking. The talking is needed, and it's great dialogue. It's just what they're saying is very dense.
Yeah.
But I wish that some of that could have been spread out or somehow.
But when it's good, these hills sing.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I will say some of the special effects are really bad.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I don't know when it came. When did it come out?
2007.
Yeah, there are some questionable special effects here and there. But overall, definitely worth watching. Thought-provoking, very funny, very sharply written. informative. It got me. I realized at the end, like, I really don't know the sequence of events, because I know that we armed a lot of those people in the Middle East and trained them, and some of that led to Saddam Hussein somehow, and some of that led to Osama bin Laden somehow, but I don't really know the sequence of events. So it inspired me to learn the sequence of events.
Yeah.
And
because I mean that was like 40 years ago.
Yeah. Well, and it led all the way into 2014 and today. Like the Taliban still exists.
Yeah, I just mean like it was a really long time ago for us.
Sure.
Like before we were born and all of that. And yeah, I agree. I would like to learn more about it.
It's a story that's still unfolding too.
Yeah.
So very worth watching. I think we should rate it and talk about spoilers real quick.
Okay.
So the STD thing, I wish they'd gone into more. I don't know why he was coughing. You don't make someone cough like that in a movie unless there's a problem.
Yeah, well, and have his eyes so red and stuff like that.
It almost makes me feel like that was originally going to be there and they just didn't have time to reshoot it.
And then they forgot to go back and cut it or something or change those things.
Yeah, it feels a little choppy. The ending feels a little choppy for a specific reason that we'll get into in a minute. So for that reason, I'm going to give this an 8.5 instead of a 9. But I'll give it an 8.5. I miss Philip Seymour Hoffman's. I can't say that enough out of 10.
Okay, I'm going to rate this score, and I don't want you to think that I didn't enjoy this movie. I just think that there were certain things that I already talked about that dropped this score to this. But I really enjoyed this movie, and I would recommend it, and this movie made me want to do my own research.
Mm-hmm.
Into and like learn more about all of this. I'm gonna rate this a 7.5, but I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah,
there were just certain things that I had to do it. Okay, so I'm gonna rate this a 7.5. Falling asleep while smoking a joint.
Nice.
Out of 10.
Just take your hands off the wheel, man. The car can drive itself.
Okay, spoilers.
Okay. So this film, we mentioned the part where Gustav Rickados is telling the story about the Zen master.
Yeah.
And this is very near the end of the movie because they've beaten the Soviets, but there's still problems going on. And the next step, as Gust sees it, is to help with the infrastructure of Afghanistan, build schools, build hospitals, continue to support them. Don't just pull out and leave them by themselves. Reminds me a little bit of what happened last year. Don't just leave.
Last year?
Yeah, the big pullout from Afghanistan.
That wasn't last year.
It was like a year or two ago.
I thought that was longer ago.
When Biden pulled out everybody. So,
right. I guess it doesn't matter when it happened. I thought that it was longer ago, but you're right. Sorry, keep going.
So, there is a note of melancholy that the film is sprinkling in there at the end, and you think that it's going to pay some dividends later within the movie. And the original ending, was going to be the 9/11 attacks to this movie.
Whoa.
And
that would have been really impactful.
Yes, I agree. And I saw someone say that Charlie Wilson's War had the potential to be this generation's Dr. Strangelove. Because Dr. Strangelove ends with someone dropping a bomb. A comedy, a dark comedy about historical, semi-historical events that ends with this really shocking moment. I understand it's overly simplistic to say that we are responsible for what happened in, eventually with 9/11, because we can't, at a certain point, we can't control the actions of everybody.
Yeah.
And especially the things that happened. I was reading about this and like watching videos about this morning about why bin Laden attacked 9/11, and it seems like there's a myriad of reasons why he did. He was actually part of the Mujahideen.
Oh.
Did you know that?
No.
Yeah.
Well, this is why I'm saying I don't know very much about this, and that's why I kept pausing it, because I needed to voice how I felt to try and figure out how I felt.
But anyways, it seems like the most credible inciting incident for why he decided to attack America was back when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, we wanted to stop him because he was a dictator, emphasis on the dick. And we made a deal with Saudi Arabia to base our troops there so that they could launch a counteroffensive against Saddam in Kuwait. And Osama bin Laden was upset that there were infidels so near in the Holy Land, the quote unquote Holy Land. We were too close to Mecca. We were too close to Medina. And this
is that what they call Mecca?
No, it's another holy city.
Oh.
But like, just, obviously Saddam is an asshole, or Osama is an asshole and has ridiculous, outrageous, fringe beliefs about morals and he's an extremist, right? What a stupid thing to think that American troops that are helping the situation and deposing a dictator, by virtue of them just not being Muslim, it's a sin for them to be on this land. That's not even really, it's not your holy places. It's not like we're walking up to the Dome of the Rock and doing whatever we want. Like, we're trying to help these people get rid of this asshole that's trying to take things over. Anyways, this seems like the most credible sort of straw that broke the camel's back for why he decided to attack at 9/11. But like, yeah, so anyway, all of that to say, I understand that arming the Mujahideen and the 9/11 attacks, there's not like a direct line that you can draw between those. I just think that the 9/11 attack would have been a better ending because it's more consistent with the Zen master story.
Yeah.
It's it's ripples, like our involvement in arming that population and training them and then pulling out and leaving a power vacuum and doing nothing about it until Saddam was invading Kuwait. Like that, all those ripples played a part in eventually the wave that came and hit us in our country. And to show the 9/11 attacks would have been very impactful.
Yeah.
And like, I think inspired even more people to like, wait, is this really what caused it? And then they learn more about it and then they understand it. How does the film actually end? Do you remember?
No. I was trying to think. The only thing I can think of is the Zen Master. Oh, Charlie Wilson is trying to get funding. Isn't that the ending?
He tries to get funding for a school for a little bit, yeah.
And everyone just laughs at him.
But the ending is him getting an award. So it's like a feel-good ending.
Oh.
Which is so lame in my opinion.
Yeah.
And apparently Tom Hanks is directly responsible for that ending change. He didn't feel comfortable showing the 9/11 attacks, which, fair enough, like they'd happened 6 years prior. I mean, not...
That's still fairly recent.
Yeah.
At that time.
Like, I know everybody was afraid to discuss that, and they cut scenes out of Spider-Man that showed the Twin Towers for that reason, and just for a long time. A very sensitive subject still is.
Yeah.
I just think for a movie like this, you gotta go with the ballsier ending.
Yeah.
You just have to. It's like tonally, it makes more sense with how that movie was wrapping up, and it's also just more, it hits you harder.
Yeah.
Than the way that they did choose to end it. So I was disappointed by that.
The U.S. pulled out of Afghanistan like February 2020 to 21 to August of 21.
Yeah. This is the corner we've painted ourselves into. Like we help and then we leave. Some would argue help is in quotation marks.
Yeah.
It depends
on your point of view. And...
Yeah, it depends on the op, depends on your point of view, whatever, but...
Was that it?
Yeah, I think so. Did you have anything spoilery?
No.
But I mean, this got us talking, you can tell. We're just yapping away here. So you should definitely watch this.
It's definitely a very thought-provoking movie, and I would like to watch it again. This is like Oppenheimer, where...
I agree, yeah. That's what I was thinking too.
Yeah, how... I feel like I need to watch this again to understand the scope of the movie.
Yeah. So, it's definitely, it feels overwhelming in the first 20 minutes or so.
I think it comes in waves of being overwhelming, I would say.
But I think they do a good enough job, as long as you're paying attention, where you will come away with something from this movie, and then you can watch it again, come away with a little bit more. That's part of the beauty of Aaron Sorkin, though, is his writing is so good that you can watch his films 10 times and you can get new stuff on the 10th viewing where you're like, oh, I appreciate that too, that I didn't appreciate before.
Yeah. Okay.
So basically, we need to watch Steve Jobs again. You need to just get over it.
Oh my gosh. So, coming up, if you listen to this far, leave your recommendation for what we should watch. These are the options that we have, okay?
Keep in mind, we don't like gory horror movies.
I don't like psychological stuff.
What? Really?
A ton. That's like, if it's too much.
So, like, no Shutter Island.
No, are you kidding me? I get nightmares way too quickly.
Yeah, so basically guess right if you want to leave a recommendation. Leave whatever recommendation you want.
No, we would appreciate all recommendations.
Yeah, and then we'll filter based on, like, what we would like to watch.
But leave a comment if you... I'm going to read off a few. Let me know what you guys want to hear, okay? We have Zodiac, The Menu. Brayden really wants to watch Silence of the Lambs, and I don't know if I can do it. We have Haunting in Venice, and we'll end that with Zombieland and Shaun of the Dead.
I love Shaun of the Dead.
So, out of those, let me know. Or if you're like, oh, based off of what you guys said, you would really enjoy such and such movie.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be from that list.
No. But let us know.
Yeah. I will be watching Pan's Labyrinth for the first time. Long overdue. Been meaning to get around to it for a while. Also, reading Stardust. In a weird, bizarro way, all this shit about Neil Gaiman has inspired me to read more of his books. In a weird, bizarro way. I know, it's strange.
Jeez.
But I'll be talking about that probably next week too. What about you?
I think I'm reading Coraline.
There's Micah on the other side judging me and doing the exact same thing.
I was not judging you. Oh.
Okay, yeah, so we got some spooky stuff coming up next week too. Stay tuned, everybody.
Okay, have a great week. Bye.